Salut, c'est Marie de Just French It. Welcome in this new podcast. And today, the theme of today's episode is so great and fascinating. We're going to talk about polyglots. And polyglots, just so we start on the same base, they are people who can speak several languages. The line, isn't super clear and it doesn't really matter, but for the sake of this podcast and for you and I to agree, I would consider a polyglot someone who can speak 3 or more languages. Some people know more than that, obviously. Some people can speak 20 languages. 20! Wow! At various, degrees of confidence and fluency, and, not everyone is the same, and they do not master every language at the same level. But I don't know about you, but I admire such people. They make it look like, and that's the key word here, look like learning a language is effortless, And damn, how cool are they? And how cool would it be to just say, oh, I speak 7 languages, like a random fact about yourself. That's that'd be awesome. But in today's podcast, what I want to talk about especially is how they are doing it. How do they do it? How do they learn so many languages? How do they do it? It's kind of, I don't know about you, but that kind of had me wonder for a long time. Well, I wondered so much and I was really, really curious about it, so I've spent a bit of time researching that. Watching those aliens of language learning from afar, spying on their techniques, I'm kidding, of course, I'm not a stalker. I promise I am not a stalker. Nevertheless, I studied them a bit, right? And what I found was actually really surprising. Because from afar you could say, okay, those people surely have a certain advantage, right? They learn so many languages. Because if it was that easy to learn languages and to master a lot of them, then surely the whole world would be made of polyglots. But you know what? Turns out they are pretty normal people. Those people, those polyglots, they do not have a superior intelligence. Maybe 1 or 2 of them that springs to mind have this sort of intelligence. But, they don't, generally speaking, they don't have the brain force of 1,000 Einsteins or, some sort of magic brain that can store any information once you heard them. They're pretty normal people. Look at Benny Lewis, for example, which I admire a lot. He's not different from other people I've met before. And in fact, I'm sure you would relate to him very much. I would even say that apart from his language skills, he's your pretty average Irish guy, and I know a bit about Irish people. Lindsay Doe, which is another polyglot, she's very relatable as well, because she appears to be an exact replica of my best friend. And I'm not saying that to diminish them in any way. My best friend is an awesome person, and I'm sure they are awesome people too. I'm saying that to make you realize that you could be one of them as well, if that's your jam. Because polyglots are not advantaged in any way. It's not a question of budget either, because most of them started out as broke students, which I'm sure you started your language learning, or your learning journey as a student, probably as well. That's how most of them do it anyway. Those people, they couldn't go and immerse themselves in Paris for a whole year because they were broke students. They didn't have access to more books or better teachers. Because, in fact, teachers are on average about the same anywhere in the world, really. They didn't come from rich families that paid them expensive classes or a seat in the best language schools in the world. No. They didn't discover a website that taught them French in 5 hours either. That's not their secret. No. What it is then? What is it with polyglots? Well, to answer that, we should take a look at what it is they have in common. What it is they have in common. What makes a polyglot a polyglot, apart from the fact that she or he knows many languages? Well, it appears to be that what they have in common has nothing to do with who they are, and it has much more to do with what they do. After watching them for a while, I figured out a few things. Are you ready? Because it's a big secret and I'm going to reveal it. What they have in common, those people, it's their ways. Their ways. What were you expecting? The reason why polyglots can learn languages so easily resides in the way they act, in what they do rather than what they are or what they have. The question is then, what is it they do, right? Well, they share a particularity that I admire a lot in people, in all sorts of people, not just people who learn languages. They experiment. What do I mean by that? I mean, they take learning a language like an experiment. They try things, they perfect it, and then they use it over and over again when it works. And when it doesn't, they let it go. They're very, very efficient. And this way of looking at the world, this way of learning is really, really powerful. Not just in language learning, but let's concentrate on that for now, which I'm sure you're here for language learning anyway. So, your average polyglot has found a technique, or 2, or 3, or 4, that she or he is using over and over again to learn languages. This technique, she or he selected it because it gives results, because they experimented and it works. She didn't just, wait around for someone to suddenly invent a technique that works for them. They tried and they tested. And, it's not such an easy thing to do, because when we say things like that, it sounds very, very simple. But it requires a lot of work, a lot of analysis, and a lot of persistence. Luckily, you don't really have to do the same work. You could do it, you could experiment, and you're going to have to do a little bit of experiment anyway. But it'd be very long to do it like that, and not so good for your short-term learning, right? You want result now. If you don't have the time, you don't have the energy to test and try. And, well, what I did is that I packaged my result. I figured out what is the techniques they are using, what is those techniques they are using, how they could work for you. I adapted them as well to you, and I've packaged my result in an online course, and it's called Polyglot Secrets: How to Learn a Language Like a Polyglot. It's available on the Just French It School and at a special price until Sunday. The link is in the description below the video, so if you are listening to this on Spotify or iTunes, just go to justfrenchit.com and click on the school button. During this course, this is what we're going to learn, and that will give you a glimpse of what those techniques are. How to improve your pronunciation very easily with material you already have access to, so you don't actually have to pay for more material or to buy something extra. How to become a much more natural speaker with a technique that allows you to learn grammar easily, because we know that grammar generally is something that is hard to master, something that is hard to put in within your study, and generally it's not the thing learners are the most interested in, right? Grammar. Then how to become a memory monster, because if you learn all those things, you're going to need to remember them. And if you want to remember them, well, you need to work on your memory, and there's a technique for that. How you can start speaking your target language before tonight, and I'm really saying before tonight, and this one is kind of really, really powerful. How to quickly improve over short periods of time. That's very good if you want quick results, or if you have something coming up where you need to speak your target language. How to speak all day, where even if you don't know any natives, because that can be something that you struggle with, finding people to talk to in your target language. Depending on the language you are learning, it can be really hard to do so. And finally, how to get the same benefits as if you were going abroad without going abroad, because we know that going abroad is expensive. It's not accessible for everyone. So how can you get the same benefits as a month in France while not going to France? Be awesome, right? So don't worry, because I hear you thinking already, if you are a beginner, this course will help you get started on the right foot. But if you are an intermediate, you're going to improve your learning strategy, and you'll be able to learn much more efficiently and simply, because and we talk about that actually in the podcast on Friday. We'll talk about why, as an intermediate, this could be a good idea for you to take a look at, because the technique you are using at the moment, even if you are an intermediate, even if you already arrived at this point, your technique probably could use some work. So if you want to know more about this, I'll see you in the first module. You just have to click on the link, and c'est parti. À la prochaine.